basically TGIF, right? We made it. Woo, good afternoon, right? Hopefully at this point, regardless of where anyone is, I think we're all just about on afternoon time. Maybe not Pacific, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We all are on Friday. So we're grateful. Y'all, please do say hello and let us know where you're checking in from. All right. We've been changing, going live during the day for this month of February. So we appreciate everyone's flexibility and showing up and joining us. But I really think I like Fridays for these discussions, right? There's been some really good discussions on these Fridays. So playing with the time a little bit, but thank y'all for joining. Real quick, very soon we will have some updates to some of our media and press features because we've written some articles more recently, kind of been on a little mini podcast tour, if you will, and have some exciting upcoming projects, especially one of them being Beyond the Jargon. It's a webinar that's really emphasizing supporting English language learners in math class, especially in math, super specific in particular to that. The web page, the registration page is actually going to open tomorrow. So make sure that you're ready and on the lookout. Plus, we'll be dropping some gems and spilling some tea there. And I did not say yet that y'all, it's a free webinar. It is free 99. All right. So make sure that you're signed up for sure. So again, I can't say it. Hey, I have someone on LinkedIn. Hi. Thank you for tuning in. Y'all, I really can't say enough. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sincerely. I thank you all for saying hi. That the people that have, y'all, in 2023, we're really just executing with intention and the spirit of synergy, right? Being super intentional in our work and just making sure that things are working together, things and the people, the collaborating space, super intentional. Real quick, a special shout out to some of my favorites of the Holistic Collective. Y'all, my replay renegades. Please do, if you are catching the replay, make sure that you put hashtag replay in the comments. And y'all know I thank you again for your support. All right. So earlier this month, we actually facilitated a discussion on multiple intelligences, right? If you've tuned in before, you know that that's my jam. I really nerd out on that particular theory because it's so impactful, especially when we talk about leaders and youth, just that awareness. I'm not going to get into it. You have to go back and watch the replay. It was last week though, so it's February 3rd, okay? We talked about it from a different kind of perspective this time though, so not just how it's demonstrated in different spaces, but also we talked about some considerations and things that may arise in times of like a lockdown, virtual only mode. And to be honest, that was on my mind specifically because most of last week, North Texas, we were at home for 4 days straight, everybody. So some of those things started showing up again. And as someone said, they were having COVID vibes, right? A little bit. So we spoke on that a bit. Hi, Monique. Hi, Robin. Thank y'all for tuning in. So super quickly, we're going to go ahead and get into it, y'all. Love languages, because we've been messing up. We've been messing up a bit. First of all, on the topic of love languages, if you're familiar with this, you've heard about it, you know a little something, please do drop a heart in the comments. Drop a heart, whatever color you want, right? Your choice, whatever color you like, drop a heart in the comments. You know what, Anika? Yeah, I do know a little something. I've heard about love languages. I know something. Drop a heart in the comments, whatever you want, so I can kind of see. Okay. All right. So with these hearts, with love languages, right? You kind of caught me a little bit. So what kind of? Yes, I figured that maybe discussing love languages so close to Valentine's might catch some attention, right? Maybe. But to be honest, we more so thought that it was just a great anchor and foundation as we continue to build this relational awareness, this self-awareness, right? And being careful about how that shows up, how our love languages show up when we interact with others and just continue on throughout life. And yes, they're very simple, but it really also can be that deep, truly. Simple but deep. I know, but here we go. So, quick backstory, quick evolution. So, love languages was started by Gary Chapman, and he really designed these uh, as guidance for couples. But it really didn't take long for a lot of people to start realizing that it could apply to any and every interaction, right? In any space. So, whether it's family, friendship, coworkers, right? All of them, right? Not just the ones you like, haha. And of course, your boo, your bae, but all relationships in general, because we do spend, many of us spend significant time with people in all those other spaces that we name, not just people in our households, especially prior to 2020. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people are aware of the love languages. There are 5. I want to know in the comments, can you all name any of them? Can you all name any of the love languages? Type it up, write it out. What love languages can you name? There's 5. Let's see what we can do. There are 5. Let's see what we can do. Okay, because again, remember that these are basically outlined as ways that people express their appreciation, their admiration, even for others. So it's really our preference at Holistic Fluency to really call them appreciation languages, honestly. Okay, Monique says, I want to say gifting. Yes, receiving gifts is definitely one. Thank you. All right. And then someone says time. Yes, quality time for sure. So quality time. So y'all have 2. Good, good. So I'll go ahead and fill in real quick. Acts of service, words of affirmation, and physical touch are the other 3. So acts of service, receiving gifts, words of affirmation, physical touch, and quality time. And I would have to. Okay, so Robin said hugs. So that definitely would be the physical touch. Falls under physical touch for sure. Yeah, so I would be remiss if I did not drop in and put this little sprinkle of bonus in, okay? So for the bonus, in the past, we have mentioned, but it's definitely worth mentioning again, that adolescents, so including Generation Z, all the way down to the Alpha generation. And I'm going to pause for Generation Z for just a moment. Remember that they are in the workplace. That's also why I'm making a point to emphasize this. Generation Z is in the workplace. They're part of the workforce, and it's probably a larger percentage of your colleagues than you might imagine right now. Because remember, it goes up. Adolescence ends at about age 25, 26. So hold that thought. Consistently, though, year after year, working with different young people, right, especially in those last 2 generations, it's kind of been surprising that they've had quality time in their top 3 love languages. I'll be honest, at first I was a bit puzzled. I was a bit confused, y'all. But then I realized that developmentally, it made sense. If we're thinking about the adolescents, okay, hey, Carla, all right. If we're thinking about adolescents, then we know that their bodies are changing, right? That their brains are growing, they're building knowledge, they're building their knowledge base even more, and they're testing boundaries, y'all. So I like to call it toddler phase 2.0, okay, to be honest, because all those things are parallel. However, we need to keep that in mind when we're thinking about, again, these appreciation languages, how they're being demonstrated, how they're expressed, especially with quality time being a top one, because y'all, it's 2023. So when we think about distraction free, uninterrupted quality time, I mean, how consistent? How consistent are we doing it? Like, and with what fidelity? And be clear, I'm raising my hand, I'm talking to myself as well, right? So really, really doing better and tightening up there, honestly. If you want to know more about why and how the adolescent period of life is like toddler phase or like toddlers but 2.0. So I did do a podcast feature on that. You can check the link in the bio for the Circle 31 link in the bio. Okay. All right. So quality time. Also, when approaching the topic, we're thinking about love languages. Love languages in action seemed as a very, very beneficial way to really lock it in, right? Really lock it in, make it make sense. So, for example, Robin specifically said hugs. And again, yes, hugs falls under, right, physical touch. So, what would happen on a day-to-day basis? We already did quality time. We would have discussions in different spaces where, okay, acts of service, how can that look? Where did you see some of acts of service being demonstrated in action? So when someone does something for you, so you don't have to, basically. So maybe my brother washed the dishes, even though it was my turn, right? My mom let the dog out one morning for me, so I didn't have to wake up as early to do so. So just things like that. Again, thinking about some of the examples from working with youth, receiving gifts. Monique said gifts. And so again, it's not about the value or the size or the quantity, right? It's not like, okay, well, what's the cut on the diamond? It's not that, not at all. But literally, as the old saying goes, as the adage goes, it's the thoughts. Right. So maybe my best friend brought me a bag of Flaming Hots today, Miss Jones. Okay. Or my dad came home with a geode for me from his trip. Those little things, y'all, you can really, really lock in, and they can really start to see it, right, in how we're moving and interacting every day. Words of affirmation, words that encourage and uplift. Okay, now listen. People that have this one as a predominant love language, they tend to be the ones that initiate their group text, right? Or maybe you're the person that initiates the group text. Or maybe they're sharing, new school, not just a group text message, but they have specific, almost little slides and images they might send. And a little more old school side, maybe they write notes to others, send cards with fidelity for the different holidays, birthdays, things like that. But these are usually your quotes people, your people that love to give you a quote, maybe post quotes, share quotes, words of affirmation. Then again, physical touch. So again, this is not limiting this to amorous situations, right? Where someone that you're romantically interested in, but, could be a parent-child situation, a teacher, student situation, a coach situation, a colleague, because it could be a pat on the back. It could be high fives. Yes, a hug. It can be fist bumps, right? And then more on the love side, right? The amorous side, then the holding hands, cuddling, you get the idea. Okay. So we went through the 5 basic principles, and we're going to, again, get a little deeper, y'all, right? We laid the foundation. We're about to build on it a bit more. So if these love languages, if these appreciation languages are not understood or even acknowledged, then guess what? Remember, we're thinking about how sometimes we mess up. I said, we've been messing up. If they're not understood, meaning you don't know mine, I don't know yours, right? Or we don't even acknowledge, right, that there might be a difference in our love languages. People feel unappreciated. There's a lot of misunderstanding. And then there's isolation that can happen. And again, that translates across all relationship types you maybe can think of. Please let me know in the comments if you can think of a situation, maybe not just at home, but at work, in a friendship, where there was a misunderstanding, someone didn't feel appreciated, and a lot of these pieces of conversations, right? Maybe someone felt isolated, but stemming back to how the acknowledgement and awareness of the love languages really weren't where they should be, right? Y'all let me know in the comments if you can think of some situations. Let me know. So On one hand, people are working hard, right? They're working hard and pouring their heart out to try to show appreciation, but it's not being received how you want and expect it to be. So the person that's doing that pouring, right there, they are moving with intention, but it's misguided intention. So then they become confused. You might find yourself trying to or having to explain your intent frequently, like, well, what I was trying to do was, well, I thought you would, and just a lot of unnecessary explanations. Uh-huh. So this is many people, right? When you have to constantly try to validate, well, this is what I meant to do, because it's not being received how you expected and anticipated. Another big point, you all, people tend to give their love language and what they want, right? That's how they best show and demonstrate that to other people. Now, the problem with that is if I'm only demonstrating and showing and using, speaking the love language that I want, it might not be anybody else's. Literally, in the whole organization, it may not be anyone else's love language besides mine. But that's what I'm putting out into the organization, into the culture, right? Whether it's family organization, districts, campuses, businesses, y'all, whatever the organization is, that there's a problem with that. But that's the tendency. Again, unless we build this awareness and really say, you know what, let me find out everyone's love language. Let me make sure that I'm moving with intention, right? If you're in an admin role, a leadership role, for sure, and make sure that you understand how people best receive appreciation in your space. You could be doing a lot and it's not making any difference at all, literally. You could be doing quite a lot, but it's making absolutely no difference because you're speaking the wrong language, quote unquote. Okay. On that thought, so again, in organizational life, including schools, y'all, some may be aware of the research, right? On LinkedIn, especially, we've been asking some questions about what's the biggest challenge that you're facing. So we've been conducting some research. Now, to be honest, I thought there would be more trends. I thought that more people, that more responses would be more consistent, right? Would show up more frequently, but it really hasn't been a thing. That really hasn't been a thing. But if I had to say, there's one topic that's been repeated maybe a couple times now, it's more so retention and morale. Surprise, surprise, especially these days, right? We know about the great resignation and the quiet quitting that's happening. But usually organizations kind of have some go-to moves, right? They're like, okay, well, we need to make sure we're retaining employees. We need to try to check on morale. So they do events sometimes. They might do an appreciation lunch, a flex day, give you some positive feedback, donuts, a snack cart, some of these things, right? Some of these may sound familiar. There might be some go-to moves. Now, the thing about that is, and I don't want to say that they don't hold any value, but it really should be deeper than that. If it's a true, not only a social aspect, but a true connection and culture aspect, it should be deeper than that. It should be where the moves, right, that the events and activities that we're coordinating, right, based on the culture that we want to have. Hey, Jackie, thank you for joining. Based on the culture that we want to have in the organization, we want to make sure that, again, we're going deeper than those go-to moves, flex day, appreciation lunch, some positive feedback on a note very quickly, right? So if we're thinking about love languages, yes, we're going to have to invest the time where we're finding out the love languages for the different people in our space, our different employees, right? Our different colleagues, right? Whether we're a supervisor, they're a peer, maybe we support them. All these things, y'all, we need to know this information. And it will be extra wise, honestly, to make sure that as we plan these events, plan these activities, these moves, right? If we're trying to really anchor on morale and retention, that they correlate, that they match the dominant love languages of the staff, of the campus, of the organization. Maybe there's one activity that it's like this, it's going to be a really juicy activity where we can take care of all three, because it's usually about three dominant love languages people have, where these are the three most frequent that showed up on the staff profiles, staff survey, that this one thing can take care of all three, right? That could be an approach. Slash, maybe we want to kind of add some sprinkles with some different ideas and suggestions for the tasks and activities throughout the year, right? So a few ways to approach it. But I also want to say, educator life, educator shout out really quickly. Y'all, it is very consistently, that regardless of really with any, whatever demographics you want to look at, that acts of service, and I would say probably a lot of people in that service kind of space. I would put therapists, clinicians, and nurses, doctors, people in the medical field, I would put them there as well, right? The acts of service tends to be one of their top three, right? Where someone is doing something for you so you don't have to do it. So that was a little extra nugget for free, y'all. But again, I know for sure on the educator circuit side, right, that acts of service is one of the top three love languages demonstrated and desired, right? I told y'all I'm a data girl. Y'all know that, right? That all these talks is going to be backed with some research for sure. And I also want you all to consider this while you're planning. While you're considering and planning, there's many spaces, especially now, where there may be some new employees, new to the organization. So they're learning the organizational culture at this time, right? When you're planning your activities. So do we necessarily want it to be something where we're sitting down the whole time and there's not much interaction? Maybe not. And on that same note, maybe there's some that's new to the workforce. Earlier, we talked about the Gen Z, the oldest Gen Z people, right, being in the workplace, being our colleagues. So they're needing to not only get to know people, but they're still shaping and forming their thoughts and ideas about what appropriate work relationships will look and sound and feel like. So all of these things, again, to be mindful of, going back to awareness when you're talking about what type of activities you want to do to begin to address employee morale and retention. But also, if you're using the love languages to do so, use the data, right? Don't just say, okay, we gave them a survey, now we're going to do something. No, be intentional, right? If the activities presented, if they aren't mindful of this awareness, yeah, it doesn't speak at all. If it doesn't speak at all to the intentionality of building culture in the organization, the perception of the organization is going to write itself. The perception of the culture of the organization is also going to write itself. Neither of which is a good thing. Neither of which is a good thing. So yes, we can definitely use love languages while we're approaching appreciation, right? So when we say approaching appreciation, because again, we prefer to use appreciation languages versus love languages because it transcends all the types of relationships. But we really want to make sure that we're building a positive organizational culture. But it can't just be painted with a broad paintbrush. Jackie said, be intentional and utilize the data. Yes, like we have to do the plan with fidelity. If it's we're digging deeper to get to know who we're working with and what they prefer, right? What they prefer to receive as their love language, right? And you make sure you're demonstrating that. You have to use the data. Yes, you must be intentional in your discovery and your application. You have to. Because guess what? We talked about all the warm and fuzzy feelings. Hey, Dr. Scott. We talked about all the warm and fuzzy feelings, things to be careful about. But let's be super specific. If we don't do these things, right, both parties will feel unappreciated. The person that's like, I've been doing all these surveying and asking them, right, and they aren't feeling appreciated. But my love language is acts of service, and you wrote me a note and left it on my desk. You dropped a card in my work box, my work mailbox. We're not speaking the same language, right? I'm not understanding that you're trying to show me appreciation. And then you feel unappreciated because you tried to. Your intent was there. So again, we have to be super locked in to the data, our findings, and applying it, because otherwise you end up with all parties, again, involved, feeling unappreciated. The one that's attempting to show their appreciation is not only feeling unappreciated, y'all, they're frustrated, straight up frustrated, right? And then the one, because they feel like when they showed appreciation, that other people were nonchalant, unappreciative, and all that, but literally because it's not their language. Oftentimes, I like to compare love languages to, to languages of the world, to world language, to kind of frame and help us set it. So, world languages, if someone doesn't speak the same language as you, right, y'all aren't able to understand each other. For shame, because this is a real thing that some people do, some people speak louder and more slowly, as though suddenly it's all going to make sense, as though suddenly they're going to speak your language. Like, oh, well, you know what? When you talk louder and slow down, I understood. No, because I do not speak the language that you speak. So literally trying to show appreciation and have someone receive appreciation in a language that's not theirs it's the same thing in my mind. Is tone deaf, but literally in this case, I say is love deaf. It's appreciation language deaf. Like you're not getting it. You're not. So we need to be careful in that, right? Because again, if you tend to give what you want, but that's not what the other person wants, we might as well be speaking two different languages, like world languages to each other. And neither one of us speaks to others, right? We're just sitting there looking like, I don't know. I don't get it. So, y'all, and that would just be purely pecans to think that is going to add any kind of positivity and help to grow and develop their organizational culture. Okay. It's just silly. It is. But that is my talk for today, y'all. So thank y'all. We have been looking at love languages because I say we've been messing up. But again, we have some perspective now and some tips to do better. And again, I know I kind of caught your attention because we're a little closer to Valentine's, but really this had to do with all relational capacities. Okay. Okay, so Dr. Scott said it sounds like one of those one-way streets, right? Where you feel as though you're giving, but at some point we have to reflect. Am I actually giving how they understand that I'm giving, right? And so she said that she'll get off those streets as fast as she can. So that's the thing. So that does cause some people to shut down, right? Who wouldn't, right? If it's not being understood, I'm giving, and it doesn't seem to mean anything to you, then most people wouldn't continue to give, especially not with the same enthusiasm. Definitely. Okay, Jackie says, thank you. It has to be a two-way street in any environment, at home and work. Yeah, I'm telling you. So love languages, that's why we prefer to call them appreciation languages, for sure. Because it applies in every aspect relationally, any interaction, coworkers, everyone. And again, we are focusing a lot on colleagues and coworkers across the board because many of us spend a significant amount of time in their spaces as well, right? All right, y'all. So I'm Anika S. Jones. Please say the S. I am the community curator, also serving as the lead consultant of Holistic Fluency. We add value to individuals and organizations by building relational capacity and agility. We really want people to be smooth with it. We want y'all to be relational ninjas. Yes, that's the point. That's the goal. We hope that you enjoyed today's session and you'll spend some more time with us again soon. Y'all help us spread the word, please. Please tag some people, share this post, and thank you all again for joining. Bye-bye.